A video about this topic for a while because it's so life-changing and important, and it has to do with your three checkpoints, the three main checkpoints of your body when we're talking alignment, posture, as you set up for an exercise. So first and foremost, feet. You guys know how I obsess about the feet. So when I am setting up my yoga classes in Tadasana, mountain pose, I spend a lot of time, probably excessive amount of time on the feet. And I want you guys to spend some time on your feet. So the first thing you want to do when you set your feet is see if they are actually where you think you put them. I'm always surprised how often I say plant your feet parallel in perfect, balanced form. And when people look down, their feet are kind of like this, or one foot slightly in front of the other. So find where your feet are perfectly parallel. The other thing you want to be mindful of in the feet is, do you overpronate? So if you have a little bit of collapsing, and I'll do another little angle so you can see that, but if you have a little bit of collapsing, that will translate into knee pain. So if you're experiencing knee pain, especially runners, you might be an overpronator. Now that is a subconscious muscular action or misaction. It's an incorrect muscular action. So you can consciously, once you learn that you're doing it, you can correct it by doing proper foot exercises. What a lot of people believe in and do is they get orthotics, or they get shoes that prevent their feet from pronating. The problem with that is it's a quick fix, but it's not a permanent fix. Strengthen the feet. Don't make your feet lazy. Don't make them worse at pronating by giving them support to continue pronating. Does that make sense? Some people will disagree with this. I know if it's really bad and it's causing you pain, you want that quick fix. I get it. But I think if you can supplement the quick fix with the exercises, you can wean yourself off of that quick fix. Sometimes I will see supination. It's more rare to see people who supinate than pronate, but supination causes a lot of issues too. I once had a guy in my yoga class who was asking me after class, I get this knee pain, and he was a triathlete, he needs his knees. He said, I get this knee pain. So I said, well, let me look at you. And I had him stand like this. And I looked, immediately I saw that the shape of his Achilles tendon was totally like a parenthesis. If you see that on yourself, that parenthesis, that's not right. Like, look, my Achilles tendon is straight up and down. If it looks like a parenthesis, you are a supinator, and it causes your Achilles tendon to kind of curve out, which of course is going to give you a lot of knee pain. So again, corrective exercises is going to be the long-term solution. Orthotics is a quick Band-Aid solution. But really important to make sure that you are not supinating or pronating. Again, that is a muscular action, misaction that you can correct by awareness and practicing and strengthening your feet. Like I've said before, you should be able to push down your big toe, lift your little toes. You should be able to push down your little toes, lift your big toes, and you should be able to push down your big toe and your baby toe and lift your middle three. If you cannot do that action, this action, you have atrophied feet muscles that need to reawaken. So do the footwork, pick things up with your feet. Okay, so feet is checkpoint number one. Get them strong, get them aligned. I like to have my clients shift their weight left to right, front to back, and see, we tend to be a little heavy. Most of us right side heavy because we drive a lot, right? And everything you do, gas and brake, is right, and your left side's just hanging out. So the more that you drive and the more that you're using that, the more you're becoming right side dominant. That's just a theory. I think it's true. So see if you are right side heavy. Over time, you will start to become the leaning tower, and that's going to cause a lot of hip pain, knee issues, back pain, neck pain. So it's really important to balance your weight. Say, imagine you're standing on 2 scales and you want to even out those numbers. So feet is an important checkpoint, and then hips. If your feet and hips have good alignment, actually I should say pelvis, pelvic frame, then your knees will be good because they're in between. So you can kind of just come right up to here. Now this is the life-changing area. Well, feet, of course, first, but pelvis. When we're talking pelvis, I always say pelvic frame because it's this whole like girdle, right? And it kind of controls your hip placement. The pelvis can have some issues, some structural issues as well. Women especially who've had babies, because the pelvis has shifted. It has expanded, it has gone back, and it has moved, and sometimes it doesn't go back perfectly. So we can have these little shifts in the structure of our pelvis that can cause a lot of low back pain, hip issues. So that might take some like chiropractic work, but also the strength training and the awareness and what muscles do I need to strengthen and stretch to try to find as much alignment as possible. Now, when we talk alignment, you know, there are some people who are just like, my body is my body and path of least resistance, but you would not do that with your car. You wouldn't be like, well, my car is misaligned, so I'm just gonna like drive it that way, it'll be fine. No, you know it's gonna wear out and ruin the functionality of your vehicle. Same with your body. If you are misaligned, over time, that's going to ruin the functionality of your entire body. It's going to translate in a lot of pain over the long haul. Runners especially need to think about their alignment. Your alignment before you're doing any action dictates your alignment while you're performing that action. Does that make sense? So if this is off just standing, what do you think you look like when you're walking, when you're running, when you're cycling? So you have to address your alignment. Now, I know we all have different skeletal structures. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect. Most of us have a leg length discrepancy, but you want to find as much alignment as possible. Now, what causes us to be misaligned are our daily actions and the way we move, besides our skeletal structure, but the muscular structure. So if, for example, you always carry your purse or your bag on the right shoulder, over time you create a different shape in your structure. Like I have like a hook right here, that's my purse carrying side. So you want to alternate. Your hair part, people who have like extreme parts tend to tilt their head to one side. Over time, this creates, you know, one muscle is much longer, one muscle is shorter. You're going to totally misalign that structure. So pay attention to your habits, your movement habits, and see if that is causing more misalignment. And try to balance out your movements as much as you can. Now with the pelvic frame, so I check in with the feet, I check in with the pelvic frame. With the pelvic frame, I'm having clients wiggle side to side, kind of up and down, all around to see that, but then also the tilt. So I'll show you side profile. Your pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt is when the tailbone goes back and the top of your pelvis comes forward. So anterior is the top of the pelvis is forward. So an anterior pelvic tilt causes a little bit too much of what we call a sway back, and it causes your belly to spill. So sometimes people like look like they have a pot belly, but really it's that they are disengaging their core and they're anterior tilting a bit too much. So it does make you look like you have a booty, but it also gives you this big belly, which we don't want. and it's really bad on your low back. So we don't want to be too forward in the pelvis. The opposite extreme is the tucked pelvis, the posterior pelvic tilt. And this, when I do it like this, it looks really dramatic, but sometimes it's very subtle. And what it does is it kind of flattens out that lumbar curve that you need for springiness, and it flattens your butt. So, you know, we want to see this like peachy bum, but if you're kind of walking around all day with even just a little bit of this posterior pelvic tilt, you're losing your butt. So it doesn't matter like how many squats and lunges you do, you're hiding your glutes. So that's not good on your back, and it's not pretty when you're trying to, you know, show off your derriere. So we want to make sure we're not doing that. And sometimes it's really subtle and you have to see what's going on. For me, I took ballet when I was younger, so it was always about the turnout. And so my quads, I had kind of trained them to turn out. Even when I thought I was forward, my quads were not forward. My quads were still turning out. It's a very subtle movement, but with the quads turning out, it was drawing my bum under. So I had to take my quads from here to here. And then all of a sudden, I had a butt. And that was a life changer, yay! So very subtle things. So see, especially you ladies who tend to, we want our quads end up going here, pull those quads in, really ground through those feet, open those sit bones, get them away from the tailbone, and all of a sudden, like Jessica Rabbit right there. So pelvic positioning can change your appearance drastically. So see what's going on within your own body and get that alignment, and loosen it up too. Keep it not too tight. So pelvis, so feet, pelvis, shoulders. Everything else will align if these 3 checkpoints have, you know, you've given them some love and attention. So shoulders are really important. What I notice in a lot of clients is one shoulder droops a little bit, one shoulder's a little bit higher. Can be a buildup of tension in the traps. I myself am a trap girl. I've gotten like big dudes say nice traps, and that's not what I want. I don't want nice traps. I don't want these giant traps. That is purely accidental. That's my skeletal structure, and something that I have to work on is keeping my traps down and my shoulders, my shoulder blades back and down. So you want to think, if you're seeing yourself side profile, you want to think of stacking your shoulders over this pelvic frame. If your shoulders creep even an inch in front of your pelvic frame, look what that does to your posture. So by engaging and drawing those back muscles in and drawing those shoulder blades in and down and getting your shoulder girdle over the pelvis instead of in front of the pelvis, now we've got beautiful side profile, beautiful upright carriage. We're open through the chest. It's just a prettier look. You've already gone from like 50 years old, okay, 70 to 20, and you get a booty to go with it. So check in with those 3 points. Shoulders can have issues because we don't all have the ideal perfect shoulder structure. It's a ball and socket joint. You want it to be round, and some of us are a little hooked. So you'll know this because you're noisy when you lift or you don't have good range of motion. And this is why some people have to actually surgically have that bone shaved down, because it's just not the right shape, and it can lead to some pain and injuries. So be mindful, shoulders, pelvis, feet. Focus on those, and you can improve your posture, your life, your health, your ability to breathe, your ability to perform, your ability to run. Have fun.